I love the Portal series. It's one of my favorites ever made, and I wish they'd make a third game. So today, I'm going to huff copium and talk about how Valve could theoretically come back to making games and release Portal 3. First, let's talk about the ending. Portal 2 ends with Wheatley being thrown into space, GLaDOS deleting Carolyn, and Chell riding an elevator to the surface. She steps out into a wheat field, and as she turns around, she's thrown the companion cube she lost in the first game. Pretty solid ending, but there's still questions we want to ask. But first, let's talk about the symbolism of the game. This is pretty important as I think I've figured out a way for the third game to exist and still make sense. Let me explain. Portal 2 has some allusions to Greek mythology, specifically the legend of Prometheus. This legend is partially told to us through the Oracle turret, which is very similar to the singing Bordegon in Half-Life 2. The turret states,
Prometheus was punished by the gods for giving the gift of knowledge to man. He was cast into the bowels of the air and picked by birds.
Later, GLaDOS and Chell are thrown into the bowels of the earth, and GLaDOS is pecked at by a bird. Now, the story does not fit perfectly, but that's the topic of another video. I recommend this one. Anyway, I'm not as concerned with the legend of Prometheus as I am about the Greek afterlife. You might have known that the wheat field at the end of Portal 2 is a reference to the Greek afterlife, the Elysian Fields. What you may not have known is that the wheat field isn't necessarily the final ending for life in Greek myths. And this is where the copium huffing comes in. See, Elysium is second best. The highest afterlife you can achieve is called the Isles of the Blessed, and the only way to go there is to be reincarnated 3 times, each time reaching Elysium, and to be judged especially pure. And here's where I think I've had a breakthrough. What if Chell already reached Elysium, and her being dragged back into Aperture was her reincarnating? The end of the second game that marks the end of her second life, and now the beginning of the third game is her beginning her third and final life, as she goes through the Isles of the Blessed. Maybe they could decide that Chell will need to go through 3 heroic acts as a way of reincarnating herself. There's a lot of wiggle room we can take advantage of here, especially since Greek myths famously have multiple versions. Maybe Chell re-enters Aperture to save someone from it, kind of like Orpheus. But I'm not done yet. Oh no. See, you may remember the Borealis Easter egg in Portal 2, where we see where the ship was docked. We know that the ship could teleport, but what we don't know is if that's the only thing it could do. I'll come back to this in a moment, I promise. Let's talk logically about the ending of Portal 2. Chell has no friends, no family, and is alone in the world, possibly thousands of years into the future. She has so many loose ends tied to her. She doesn't know her parents, she never talks, we have no idea why she even signed up for testing in the first place, and her only possession is a cube. Her ending is sad, like, really sad. Why end it here? Why not follow it up, tying these loose ends and giving Chell closure? You see, it's commonly believed that Chell is thousands of years into the future. In Portal 2, The Final Hours, we see this line saying, one way to differentiate Portal and Half-Life was to have the game set far into the future, at least 50,000 years. This does dash any hopes we had of a crossover between Half-Life and Portal, unfortunately. It would have been amazing to have a game that mixes guns and portals like Splitgate does. However, this is what they said over a decade ago, and they could have changed their minds. If they were to have a crossover, even a minor one, this is how I would see it going down. Remember the Borealis, a mysterious boat that holds some sort of powerful technology. We don't know anything about it, except that it can likely teleport. My hope is that the boat doesn't just teleport, but that it can travel through time as well. What if the boat was so hard to catch, not because it was moving around the planet too fast for the combat to catch, but because they left this time altogether? And so maybe in the third game, Chell comes across it and is taken back to her own time, where she gets her final ending. Is this mad cope? Absolutely. At this point, I'm basically writing fanfiction, and I'm fine with that. There are so many ways Valve can take this, and there's so much room for creativity. One thing we can't ignore is the possibility of the devs redoing the ending of Portal 2. If you remember the original ending of Portal 1, you were left on the surface and it fades to black. But now, it ends with Chell being dragged back into the facility. It's entirely possible that they could change the ending to better fit a transition to Portal 3. I would also assume that Valve would do an ARG like they did last time in order to drum up some extra hype. Anyway, here's some of my favorite theories on what could happen in Portal 3. 1. Chell finds Carolyn's body and frees her from stasis, finding out that GLaDOS did not in fact delete Carolyn. 2. We re-enter Aperture in order to save GLaDOS, as something has gone wrong. What goes wrong, you ask? Do you remember the ending of Portal 1, where GLaDOS says that she has our brains scanned, and if we don't stop misbehaving, she'll delete it? What if she didn't delete the backup? And what if while Wheatley was in charge, he sets in motion something heinous? A moment where Chell is now face to face with the personality core of herself, who is just as clever as we are, but with all the resources of GLaDOS. 3. As Chell picks up her companion cube, she spots a single note taped to the side of it. The note is from Doug Ratman, and he's asking to be saved. 4, Chell gets freaking drafted by the G-Man and goes into stasis once again. Because, I don't know, in Portal 2 The Final Hours, they literally mention a cut line where Wheatley refers to the G-Man, saying he was there looking for her. You may hear these ideas and think that they suck, that there's no way the devs would have some sort of weird premise like this. You may be right, but we've also got to remember that half the game is spent dealing with the aftermath of an angry British robot throwing a potato down a hole. The devs seem to be fine with weird. There are many routes Valve can take in order to finish this story, if they decide it needs finishing at all, and there are many questions that simply won't be answered until Portal 3 comes out. We can wonder all we want, if it'll take place outside of Aperture, if Chell will be the main character, if we'll save Wheatley from space, and if Chell will ever find her parents. The only way we'll get these answers is if we can somehow convince Valve that we need a new Portal game. I mean, they did rally to save TF2, so why not rally to revive Portal? One last note, Portal 2 and Portal both occurred in a similar manner. If you don't know the background of how these games came to be, let me give you a quick summary. Portal is based off of a game called Narbacular Drop, which is a game made by some college students who attended DigiPen Institute of Technology. One of Valve's developers, Robin Walker, saw the game and was so impressed he offered the students the chance to show off the game at Valve's office. They showed Gabe Newell the game and were given jobs immediately. Portal 1 is now out, and Portal 2 is underway, and Valve needs new ideas. They take the idea of propulsion and repulsion gel from a game called Tag, The Power of Paint, and hire those developers as well. Take notice that Valve is pretty good at spotting ideas and then hiring the inventors to bring the idea to life. My guess is that Portal 3 will occur in a similar manner. They'll start making a new game with harder puzzles, and find some new mechanic that they want to add and hire those developers to bring it to life. Who knows, maybe someone watching this video will create something that'll end up in Portal 3. Anyways, thanks for watching. Let me know what mechanics you'd like to see in Portal 3, leave a like or something, and have a nice day.